Whoa. So Danny Crain, you're like 2 hours late to the studio.
No, I'm not. We were actually on time.
We were supposed to start at 4.
On my calendar, it was 4.
It was 4 o'clock.
So I was late to pick up Charlie. Yes, I was. But I did tell Charlie, I was like, if we don't sit here until 5, we're going to show up and then we're going to wait for an hour for John.
Okay.
Which is true.
Which is probably true. Yeah.
So technically on time.
All right.
Because guess what? We got here. We said our hellos to the team in the office. And then it took us a full half hour to get started.
So it feels pretty good to be back here.
It does. It does. I sat down and I was like, ooh, it feels nice to be back in our home studio.
I've got my beer right here. I don't have to pour it in a secret
back to
cup
the old ways.
So nobody knows I'm drinking.
Can I also just say, I was like, I don't know if I like that intro. I have to be honest. Well, I like our old intro. I mean,
the intro, that's the intro music. It's just the mid belly of it. But it's not really good.
It doesn't do it for me.
It won't be the intro though. So that was just some music to get us started. Yeah.
It didn't pump
so you
me
knew
up,
when it was actually going to start. So I was trying to help. What do you think?
They refer to that as mood music.
Yeah. So what are we doing?
You're not supposed to talk yet.
I know. What are we?
There's no rules in Charlie's here.
So with that being said, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because look, this has been a long time coming. You sat down in our studio and you were like, I can't believe I'm here because we talked about this 2 years ago. And you were there when John and I talked about the plans to actually start a podcast.
It was your idea. Yeah. One of your ideas. I mean, there was a lot of ideas.
My idea, John.
There was you're like the founder of the park, one of the co-founders for sure.
I am shocked that you pulled it together and it's actually like totally legit. Like this isn't just hacked around here.
No.
How many cameras do we got going right now?
We have 4.
4 cameras. Yeah.
That's good. That's our new one. That's the beast. That's our travel.
I was going to say, and that one's on you too. So good call on that.
You know, I had to put the best camera on
it should be on me, but it's fine.
I know.
Anyways.
You're right.
So without further ado, please introduce yourself, guest.
Yeah, baby.
Well, first of all, before I introduce myself, no matter what cup you had, everybody knew you had beer in it anyway. There's no secret. Secret behind that. I know.
Okay? Somebody called me a drunk lately, although I haven't drank a lot of beer, to be honest with you.
But you know what? This is a no judgment zone. So if anyone wants to judge, then they don't have to listen. So
So I've been on the shot thing. So like I can't
not taking shots, but
no.
Since they're just to clarify,
my wife was doing it, so I figured I'd try it. And like you can't eat, like you'll go like a day without eating, and you'll be like, oh my god, I didn't eat.
Wait, I'm sorry, we still have to clarify, not shots like tequila shots,
the shot,
okay,
that the latest fad. You take that. It's not Ozempic. I don't know what the hell I'm on.
You're not sponsored by them, so you're not allowed to say that.
I'm not. Fuck Ozempic. Anyway, Ozempic, if you want part of our 20,000 downloads, come on, give me a call. www.parkingtalk.com.
We will not be sponsored by Ozempic, FYI. Anyways, please, guest. Finally, introduce yourself.
I am Charley DeBow. I work for ParkHub with 2 of my favorite people in the business in the world altogether. I am nervous as all hell.
Oh my God, Charley DeBow's nervous.
You're nervous?
I'm not nervous to be here and talking. I'm nervous that there's no script. There was no discussion of where this conversation is going.
Know. These are the best shows.
Like, this could go a number of different ways, and I don't know where it's going to go. We'll just have to figure it out.
Well, it's only nerve-wracking because, it's you and John. But don't worry, because I'm here to make sure that we keep it on track and we go in the right direction. So don't worry.
These are some of the best shows, the unscripted.
Yeah.
90% of them.
Oh, hell yeah.
The only one that was scripted was quite boring.
The dental one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was that? ASPD or APDS?
Something like that.
Did Dro make you do that one?
Yeah.
Yes, that one
Sorry,
was scripted. And you could tell because it was like
we're reading.
I can't even control myself. I'm throwing Joe under the bus and we're 30 seconds in.
I'm reading a PowerPoint. I think we did the best we could, but
did.
it's important for sure.
No, it is
Sharing
important,
data is
yeah.
important.
we should have somebody.
Sure.
We should have Mike on to actually have a conversation about it.
We're good.
Okay, anyways. So in the studio today, all the way from Philly, we have Mr. Charley DeBow with ParkHub currently. But Charley, so this is
I have to interrupt because Charley's
shocking.
I do good not interrupting.
Just go ahead.
Anyway, Central Parking alum.
Central Parking alum.
Yes.
Well,
so I always have
that's
to
what
highlight.
I was getting to.
Oh, I know.
You
I'm
didn't
sorry.
let me finish.
I
You didn't
stole
let me
the
finish.
thunder. Okay, I'll keep my mouth shut.
So I said currently with ParkHub, but Charley, let's just get into it. Let's dive into it. Tell us how you got into parking, where you came from, how you got to where you are now. So start from day one.
Day one, I walked into my first garage that I had to manage for Central, and I was.
But how did you get to Central?
I applied for a job.
So were you like the Johns of the world where you were like you found it in the newspaper? Like you found the.
No, I don't think it was that. It may have been. It was probably like. It was internet time. Like I found it on like jobs.com or something. Like I don't know.
Did they have internet back then?
Yes, they had internet.
Okay.
I'm not that old, but it was like 2004-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm 2003. I think I'm 21 years in the business.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Oh, so they did have internet.
Yeah. And I was, I'm 2 years out of college. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I thought I knew what I was doing with my life. My sister was a lawyer. She went to law school 3 or 4 years after she got her undergrad. And I was like, I'm going to do the same thing.
Right.
And so.
You went to law school?
No.
Oh.
I graduated from my undergrad and I was going to just.
And you were fucking happy with that.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just out having a good time and needed a job. And I saw this job for an operations manager for Central Parking. And I was like, I wonder what that is. And so.
That's what I said.
Applied and had my first interview with Mr. Christopher Sherman. Chris hired me.
Chris Sherman. Wow.
And I showed up to my first day, like in a suit with my nice shoes on. And it snowed that day.
Oh.
And I showed up and my area manager said, great, go grab that shovel and the bag of rock salt and go shovel the front driveway. And I was like... oh,
yeah. I'm in a friggin' suit, man.
I got my wingtips on.
Did you have a trench coat at least?
I did. Of course. I was in downtown Philly. I had the whole, the wool trench coat with the buttons. I was ready to go.
Shoveling snow.
I was a manager, John.
I know. Yep. I know.
And it was a good crew back in Philly. That it was me, it was Chris. We had 2 operations guys that were awesome. One of them still in the business. And one thing led to another. And here I am 21 years later. So I spent a number of years with Central. I moved from Philly to DC on a whim. Got a call from good old Greg Maxey and asked me to come down to DC to work. And I said, yeah, I can do that, Greg. When do you want me? He's like, tomorrow. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
When am I coming home? I don't know. So I literally drove home that night, grabbed a bunch of clothes, threw them in the back of my car, and moved to DC.
Wow.
Went from there and spent a little time on the municipal front. That was an eye opener, working for local government.
Right.
But I loved living in State College and doing that, and met my wife there. And
so that's when you went to. That was when you were at Penn State,
yeah.
Right? And was that through Central?
No.
Okay.
No, so I was working for the city part of State College at where Penn State is.
Okay. Cool.
Spent many a night sitting in boring.
So when you met your wife,
meetings.
what did you tell her you did?
Oh, everybody knew what I did. It was a small town. I was the parking guy. I had a local bit on the radio show as Charley the parking guy.
So how are you nervous now? If you've already done
I'm not
this?
nervous about being on. There's a number of things that we're going to probably talk about today. I'm not nervous about being in front of a camera or being on a microphone. I'm nervous about
the topics that we're about to get into.
What we might, because you didn't have a heads up.
Yeah. Well,
that was planned.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
planned.
Very planned. Okay, so DC, and then how did you from DC? Where'd you go?
State College,
And then
Park Mobile. So my wife and I finally convinced my wife that I was tired of State College. I went to school there. I moved back there. Love the town, but there was one Italian place. So when you want to go to dinner and you feel like Italian, you go to the same. So you got the same chicken parm everywhere that you went because it was the same one.
But in Philly's like old school, so they had like they still had the taverns with the roast beef behind.
Carving
at
it
the
up.
bar. Yeah, carving
Ye
it
Olde
up.
Beef and Nail House. We go there all the time.
Yeah, that was a Philly thing.
Yeah.
I visited a couple times.
I mean, you
there.
take your parm seriously. I know that
I
for
am
sure.
a serious chicken parm eater.
Yep.
All right. So was Monroe Carroll still, or was he still?
No, I think he had. I left right after the first private investment.
Okay.
I don't remember what were those guys. I forget what those guys' names were.
I forget too, but they Rob Toy was there.
So Rob was there. Rob was running OpEx.
Who else was there?
Maxie was still there.
Renee Dowell was there.
Renee was there. Yeah.
Hi, Renee. Who else? Who was the CEO at the time?
It's probably why I'm
Markham?
not still there. It was probably Mark.
Yeah, Markham.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was there to get the place sold, right? That's who was there during the merger.
Yeah, I left in 2008.
Okay. And
So I was
think
only there for a few years.
Yeah, and the merger was like 2012. And then what?
Yeah, I was way
What did you
before
do
that.
after that?
That was State College.
That was State
So
College.
that was 5 years in State College. And then convinced my wife that, and God bless her, she had never lived anywhere else. Born and raised in State College. Her mom was the high school principal. Her dad worked for Penn State. So she literally was like State College.
Wow.
And so
How far is State College from Philly?
3 hours.
3 hours. Okay.
But we moved to Jersey. So
Jersey.
yeah.
Jersey.
That's when I switched over to Park Mobile, and it was after a late night with Brent Paxton at an IPMI, and I woke up the next morning and I called Amy and I was like, I think that I accepted a job last night with Park Mobile. I'm not sure yet. I need to confirm a little bit later today, but I think I did.
So was that the Lufkins there? Was Jody Miller there?
No, so I was there before them. So that
Before
was
that.
before the Click and Park deal.
The Click and Park deal. Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't for a couple years after that.
Okay. And then, so you're at Park Mobile.
Good old days of me, Nathan, and Brent.
Yep. Brent
Crisscrossing
Paxton.
Yep. Crisscrossing the country and
How,
taking orders.
how long were you at Park Mobile for?
4.5 years.
And then Park Mobile to
I think Curb Track, right?
Park Mobile to Curb Track.
And that was you, like, right?
Me and Nathan and,
Okay.
and Dan Bell from
Okay.
Philly.
And then Curb Track is
To the
born, and then ParkHub buys Curb Track. Right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of story in
Yeah.
between there.
Let's hear
The
that.
pandemic.
do you want, tell us
We-
a little bit about Curb Track.
So Curb Track, I remember vividly where, I made the decision. Nathan and I had talked about it for a while. I was sitting with the BMW guys who had just acquired Park Mobile. We were in Atlanta. It was a year-end sales meeting, and they were asking me where the new business was going to come from next year. And I was like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Every city had an app at that point. And I said, we should be the leader of, figuring out how to get Park Mobile alongside a pay by phone. And they were like, no, you need to go and tell San Francisco to drop pay by phone and add Park and switch to Park Mobile. I'm like, that ain't happening. We just went through it with Philly because the old one went under Pango.
Right.
And Pango just disappeared one day. And so Philly was left hanging. So we swooped in and picked that deal up. And that was a nightmare to transfer all the users. So nobody wanted to go through that.
Right.
And so difference of opinion of where new business is going to come from. So Nathan and I had talked about it for a number of years of, the European, market had gone multi-app for a number of years. It's a lot easier over there when it's such a small territory. So we had this concept of a piece of software that sits behind the scenes that makes life easy for enforcement and LPR cameras and aggregates all the mobile payments into one place so that you don't got to go searching all over the place. And so we started the business and built the software in late 18, launched it in the middle of 19, had a good plan to raise some money and build a business out of it. And then the pandemic hit. Awesome.
Yeah. And so that was a big decision to make the move over to selling it.
Yeah. And so after the pandemic, so 20, we didn't do anything with the business. Getting into 21, it was at the end of the day, we all talked, and I didn't think that building a business specifically around that made a lot of sense. I didn't like talking to bankers and investors and lawyers, and that shit sucks.
I mean, we all know what that's like. John loves talking to lawyers.
Oh, I love it. And bankers and
investors. And so
fortunately for now I don't have to do much of that stuff anymore. So I can just focus on what I love, which is selling. So
okay, so that was Curb Track. And
so
then
I called George Baker, the CEO, founder of ParkHub, and I said, hey, we got a product over here that I think makes sense. And we did a deal and brought me over to ParkHub.
We're having some malfunctions.
It's okay, guys.
The battery went dead.
I'll just keep talking to myself. That's cool.
All this shit in this room. It's so funny when
we'll get back to that. But like, this is what happens when we're out of studio for so long.
I know.
We're like,
I had to call Christelle and say, do you press record on the cameras as well? Because this device right here, this
should do it all.
This is black magic. Like literally, that's what it's called. And that records, but you press record on the cameras just in case as like a backup. But it's so funny when you're in the middle of a podcast and shit like that goes down. And we used to have somebody here. They're like, we have a producer, and he used to be here. So when shit would go wrong, it was like, you wouldn't even notice it. But now we're on like autopilot. So.
And you let John and I run things, and it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay. So then,
anyway.
So sorry. So back to your.
So COVID impacts Curb Track.
We're past that, John.
Like it did everything.
We're past that.
Okay.
But yes.
So long story short, yes. And I ultimately think it was probably for the better.
Right.
It was a product that, quite honestly, even today, like, it's still early. Like we had this built in 2019 before anybody in the United States even thought about opening up their payment channels.
Right.
And so you know how long it takes in our business to things to really start to get going.
Right.
There's still only a handful of cities taking more than one payment app, but we're seeing more of it. Like there's more and more big cities that are starting to look at it. And I think for the ones that may have tried to do it on their own, they're starting to figure out, we may have needed another piece of software behind the scenes to kind of help us.
Right.
And it really doesn't, like, the simplicity of the product is what I love about it, because it's not really that complex, but it's for the people like your parking clerk that has people walking into the office saying, and dealing with people that, I got a parking ticket. Instead of them trying to run reports in all these different databases to see if the guy actually paid or not, type in a license plate and it filters it out and sees if that person paid.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard, but getting all of those integrations done, like that took some navigating to get done.
So I saw something cool recently where you can have one QR code. And then you scan the QR code and a menu comes up, Park Mobile, all these payment providers, like all of them. So you don't have to, so the company won't have to change their QR code, and they could just change out. It could be Spot here. They could have 10 payment providers on there. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? If it all, because
yes
you never
no.
know who's going to come from a different city where it's popular, but it's not in your city, right?
So it's so early to try and figure out if that actually makes sense or not. So there are one city that I know of now that does it that way. It has no logos on the signs.
Right.
And so you got to go and search it out. Problem with QR codes is that nobody wants the QR code anymore because of all the fraud. Right.
And
so
and that's where we come in with our start and stop. Have you heard about our auto start? So we're not a payment provider, and I don't ever self-promote, but on this show, but I will a little bit because so our cameras will start a transaction and end a transaction, and we send that to the payment. So we have 3 payment providers right now that we have the integration. We have like 6 sites right now. So basically, if you're pulling into one of those sites and you've used a QR code or something in the past and you checked Remember Me, all you got to do is as soon as you drive on the lot, you get a text message saying your transaction started, and when you leave, by the time you get off the curb, you've got your receipt already.
What
and you
happens
did
to
nothing.
me if I have all 3 of them on my phone?
What do you mean?
Like your 3 like payment like integrators.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you should be paying.
Well,
they should be a priority there.
But
So
ideally,
that means
it
you're
should be a
paying. You
priority.
could technically be paying 3 times.
but ideally,
Oh, that's bad.
I know.
I'm thinking that's good. That you better figure that out.
I think it's been figured out, but I'm going to write that down.
But you should write down on. There's value to being the first one on the list that you check.
But
Yeah.
ideally, your system should, and I'm sure it does.
All right, we're not a payment provider.
No, I know,
so,
but it
yeah.
figures out where the payment came from, and then that it's validated. When it starts and stops.
No. His system sees the license plate and says
and sends it and says,
To
"Hey, we have a transaction. It started, and then we'll be looking for that payment provider, and then we'll send them that information."
Right. So who are your?
But you're right.
what if I have all 3 and all 3 of them are available there? Like all of a sudden I'm getting 3 different charges.
Who are your 3 payment providers? You can release it because it's a thing right now. So
Lasgo is one of them.
Okay.
And there's let's see. Park and Gauge is one of them. There's several in the works, Exige and a couple others.
Okay, so likely.
Hey, let's pin that. We got a few things to talk about after the show on that one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So likely, like not multiple people or people are not going to have. Like I don't have one of those on my phone. I don't do one of those payment providers, right? Like it's unlikely.
So
I might get in
like
trouble for
5
saying this,
others
but
that
it's
are in the
unlikely
works.
that like I'm going to show up at a lot and have even one of those.
So I personally, because I was part of the test, because there's like 3 in Denver here, I would actually look for. So you said there's no brand loyalty in parking, or I said that.
No, we've made the
we've argued because I don't think
there's no brand loyalty.
Yeah, there's no brand
0.
loyalty in parking. However, if I knew that I could just pull onto a lot and not have to do a damn
That's
thing,
brand loyalty. That's not different.
I would.
That is brand loyalty.
So I
But
will look
today,
for that.
yeah.
Yeah. Nobody's going, oh, I'm parking with X, brand X. I mean, come on. Nobody gives a shit.
I mean,
unless it's off airport. Again, we've gone through this, or
but
because off airport they have there's
did,
business people. They have their paper. They may come back. They're
we
there. We
discussed brand loyalty around operators. We didn't discuss brand loyalty around payment providers.
And I'm not necessarily talking about payment providers. I'm talking about. So if the operator has what I just described, I'm looking for their locations because I don't have. It's no effort.
But those
I can
locations,
just drive on and do nothing and drive off, and my transaction's done.
How are you looking for those locations, though? Is there like somewhere that are you driving around?
So let's just say I parked with brand X and I knew that this was a thing. I would actually look for brand X.
But how did you know? How do you know?
Inside of
because
brand
I parked
X's
there
app,
once.
Right, once.
Yeah.
But inside of brand X's app, they should identify which one of their locations are on that system.
That's
so
right.
Then you could go and search it out.
That's
so you
right.
still are looking for.
That's a good point because I would look for, the average consumer will look for that brand thinking that every lot is going to have that.
And then once they do it once and it doesn't work, they're like,
yeah.
I'm not doing it
you're
again.
right. You're right. You're right.
I hear that a lot, John.
Yeah. I just, whoa. Yeah, baby.
Look,
Okay. I wanted.
Which one?
I was looking for the crowd.
It's been a second since you've had the board to navigate.
There we go.
Golf clap.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah. All right.
A lot
All
of the
right, all right,
a lot of
all
the
right, all
a
right.
lot of the time my calls to Charlie are like, "Hey, do you have 2 minutes?" And he's like, "Yes." Call Charlie, and I'm like word vomiting like this entire
You know, we're in a
scenario or
parking
anything.
garage. You can hear that in the background, right?
And Charlie will say, "Yes, no, let's think this through. Let's figure this out." And at the end I'm like, "Again, oh, you are right."
Okay, so we've established that Charlie's a Central Parking alum.
Yep.
He's 20 plus years in the business. He is always right. But I'd like to dial in and get your wife on here. I bet you she would probably
Yeah,
challenge.
she would not dis-
She would probably challenge that.
Okay, so today
He's
at ParkHub.
at today with ParkHub, which tell us about ParkHub. That's that's gone through a lot of transition here.
It's been a busy 18, 24 months.
So George Baker sold to the
Yeah, so we,
you
George
got another round or whatever, right?
George founded the business, did a great job of scaling the business, got everything right. I mean, there's so many decisions that George made over the first part of ParkHub's career that probably made a lot of people mad in the industry. But they were the right choice. Like if you asked anybody inside of ParkHub that's been there for a number of years, what industry is ParkHub in? Their answer a couple of years ago would have been, oh, we're a sports and entertainment company.
Right.
They were never a parking company. They were a sports and entertainment company. And so that's where George, growing up in the parking business, saw and understood, you know what? The way to navigate through this is to go to the venues directly, the teams directly, and get the deal done, right? Because then if the operator changes, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right. And that's always a risk with our business. So he was brilliant in the way that he set up and designed the go-to-market strategy there. Fast forward 10 years, a couple years ago at this point, and
COVID had to be
devastating. COVID was devastating to them. You're running a business that is all sports and entertainment driven, and everything shuts down. Like no one's using your devices, But it was ParkHub is a subscription model, right? So you had a little bit of leeway there. It wasn't it wasn't as bad as say a mobile payment provider that was solely generating revenue on a transactional basis. So they had the opportunity to just go back, rework some deals, extend term. Like they got through it. They figured out things to extend contracts. But COVID hurt a lot of their competitors, and kind of innovation stopped. Like George never stopped pushing through. So coming out of COVID, they had strong financials. They didn't lose a lot of clients, and looked for a growth investment and got a great partner out of Philly. Of course, where all great partners come
Philly,
from.
baby.
In LLR and recapitalized the business, gave us a bunch of money to grow, and that led us for another 18 months before we stumbled across Just Park and did that acquisition here now earlier this year and brought on another capital partner. So things have been busy and hectic over at ParkHub.
Right.
But now we are officially now, I would say, a parking company. We have a number. I mean, look at our product set now. We got our handheld devices that everybody knows us about. We got Smarking, right? We acquired that business.
Right.
We got Curb Track on street. Now we got a Just Park, a legit payment app reservation business. So, it doesn't take a mad scientist to figure out the puzzle that we have put together.
Right.
But it's not as clear as everybody probably thinks. We're still not doing certain things here in the US. We're not doing certain things in the UK. Like it's methodical. Let me put it to you that way.
Cool.
Well, I mean, and to understandably so, you're not doing the same things that you're doing in the US that you're doing in the UK yet, right? But that's all on a path forward.
So is the company that bought in, are they UK based?
No, it's a US FTV capital.
I think they're out of Philly, right?
Philly, New York.
Okay.
There's a connection through the LLR, our CEO, that went to FTV. So there's a little network there that saw value in the business.
Okay. Do you still talk to George? Do you have a pair of boots yet?
I do not have a pair of boots.
I want a pair. I asked for a pair of boots.
I actually, you know what? I
want a pair of boots.
What is a pair of, what's the pair of boots?
If you're listening,
he started boots, George.
I want a pair of those boots. He started a boot company.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he's making boots.
I was in
cowboy boots.
I was in the King of Prussia Mall outside of Philadelphia, which is like the second largest mall in the country. It's massive. And I was walking by there the other day and there was a boot store. And it was packed. Like there was like 50 people buying cowboy boots in Philadelphia.
Did you go in? And
no, but I took a picture of all the people buying boots and I sent it to George and I'm like, I guess you picked a winner in this one too because people are buying boots left and right.
In Philly.
Philly.
Yeah, of course. They got to go to the country shows, right?
I guess they're not wearing them to Eagles games, I'll tell you that much.
That's right. So you got the one country star that comes in and then, the women got to have the boots on, right?
It's probably on brand, yeah.
A lot of changes at ParkHub. So how does that translate to Charley? Are you still doing what Charley does?
Doing what Charley does. I love ParkHub. I love what I do. I run all of our partnerships. I work with Dani and Joe with the OVG team. We're doing stuff with operators and other partners, and
right.
It's a fire drill at times. Partnerships is a tough role. From the standpoint of you're dealing with top tier clients.
Right.
When things go bad, they go bad.
They sure do.
But there's also a selling component to it, right? And so you got to balance account management, selling. There's a lot of strategic decisions that go into it. So that's what I love about it. It's not the same thing every single day.
Right.
And can we talk about before it was just Charley, right? It was just you running the partnerships team. Now you got a team.
Yeah, my boy Drew.
It's you and Drew, right? But there's a lot behind that to you and Drew running this successful vertical, your partnerships team, which to be honest, a lot of what we do now with ParkHub would not be as successful if it was just you. Not to say it would be, but you have
1,000%.
You have Drew now, who is one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met in my life. Just to be transparent with that, but you guys build these relationships because Drew and you too come from a support background, customer service background, and now in which brings it almost full circle in a partnerships perspective.
Drew is one of the good ones.
So, and then you have thrown a curveball in all of this because you had a new child. So
new child. That's right. And that's why Drew is so special, because Drew has come in and Drew's 29,
20. I think he's 27.
27. Drew's young.
Okay. What's Drew's last name?
Drew Lee.
Let's give Drew a plug. Drew Lee.
The man.
With ParkHub, the myth, the legend.
Drew started out on our support team, answering support emails, moved over to account management, got promoted to enterprise account management, is where then I started working with Drew, because he would have OVG, Live Nation, all of our big accounts.
Right.
And that's, when we started the partnerships division, which was we had nothing. And so we focused on all of our large clients to put a process together. Drew was sitting right there for a year that I was working with. And finally I said, all right, I need him on my team. And Drew's just amazing. So having somebody who is that young, but who had all the knowledge of he's been in ParkHub for a couple of years. So he had all the support, technical knowledge of all the things that I probably should have known at some point, but I don't need to know. That's what Drew knows. I don't know how this validation exactly works, but Drew does.
Right.
Danny, call Drew.
But that's what makes, I think, this is a very successful team as well, is that everything that I know, you don't need to know. Everything that you know, I don't need to know. And that's what makes hey, I'm going to focus here. They know, you know this. And I really do think that it makes us a successful team.
And he's incredibly organized, which is not necessarily my strong suit. Probably both of ours were probably not really that good.
Oh, I'm well organized. Just ask Mike Drow.
I mean, I have it's myself and my director on my team, JB, who is incredibly organized and keeps me on track, right? But we keep each other accountable. We work really well and we get shit done. We make a great team. You and Drew make a great team. Like sometimes the opposites working together is kind of, I mean, it's a thing.
So you have a son, right?
Yep.
And what's his name?
Caden.
And
Sorry.
Caden is now probably over a year, right?
16 months old.
By the way, Drew is 29 and a half. I just confirmed that.
Sorry.
Just wanted to get that
30.
right.
That's what I said. I said under 30, I thought. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Anyway,
So
29 and a half.
Caden is 16 months. How's that going?
Great.
Good.
Tiring.
So you've been missed at a couple shows. You had to pull dad duty, right?
Couple dad duties.
You just had back surgery.
I just had bad back surgery in August. So
How's that? How's the golf game?
Haven't played. I played 3 rounds of golf this year.
Oh my God. He's pretty good too.
And he's devastated.
So I'm gonna be.
He's devastated.
I'll go play tomorrow.
So-
if that's your attitude, I will play
hell
tomorrow.
Yeah. So
and I will
everybody,
still beat you.
I'm gonna be the first to play with Charlie out of the gate, and I'm gonna beat his
No, you're
ass.
We should start a donation bet on that.
Yeah.
People could pick sides.
That's right. So
I think we need to host a charity golf tournament every year for our podcast, John.
yeah, absolutely. It'll be cheaper than the Bronco one.
Be cheaper than the one that we did for the last time that we came out for our little golf outing.
That was fun though. I
was
like
fun.
Breckenridge. I love mountain golf,
It's great.
and I love Breckenridge. So the two go hand in hand for me.
That'll be our first hosting mountain town.
I think we should just do a podcast from the golf course.
on the golf course.
Yeah, on the patio in the fall. What do you think?
I mean, I think
There's
everyone
nothing
would come
better
for
than
that.
the fall
Yeah.
up there.
You're right. I do agree with you on that.
Then we could just have a party to have a party.
Of course. Of course.
Just another excuse to have a party.
Okay, so back to Caden. Because, sorry, 18 months, 16.
16 months.
16 months.
16 months. Any plans to have another?
Up and to be determined.
I mean, we're going to have to ask Amy on this as well.
How old are you? Not to put you on the spot.
You don't have to put him on
45.
the spot.
45. Yeah, that's. Yeah.
I'm reaching my. I'm going to make sure that I can get through this one
so
first.
you're getting up there. Yeah.
John.
I mean, I'm not saying he's old. I mean, I had my child in my early 20s, so it's, to me, I'm putting it into perspective. But 45
So my
still
best
a good
friend,
age.
best friend has 4 kids, and they were all born before he was like 28, right?
Oh,
And so we
wow.
have this debate all the time of kids early versus kids late.
That's right.
And the list is evolving because I'm learning, right? Like having kids early, you're broke, right? Like
Exactly.
daycare is like, oh my God, I got to pay for daycare. Right? Bottles and diapers, like everything starts adding up. A little bit older, you're making a little bit more money. Like it's not as stressful.
That's right.
I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I'm just tired.
I can imagine because my daughter has 3. So then 2 of them are Irish twins, so they're not very much apart.
Yeah.
And then their the new one, Logan, is I think just over a year, so 13 months. So
Yeah.
I watch what they go through because they live right next door, and it's crazy.
And Caden is he's not a snuggler. Like he's on the go. All he wants to do is run around. And
He's
so,
like, give me my space.
yeah. But it was great. We were in New York. We went to our truffle dinner.
Yes. Oh, we have to talk about that offline, but yes.
We went
Truffle
to
dinner.
Oh yeah, there's a spot in New York that we've been going to. Quick story: my wife and I, on our first anniversary, we're at this place in New York for dinner. We were living in New Brunswick. Like we got married in State College. I started Park Mobile like the next week, and then like 6 months later, we moved to Jersey. And so I was looking for a spot for our first anniversary, and my buddy's parents own a restaurant in New York, so we went there, and it was Truffle Week. I had no idea what Truffle Week was in New York City.
Truffle week.
And so the waiter comes over and like gives us like the specials, and my wife's like, "Oh, I'll have that truffle risotto sounds great." And the waiter was like, "Well, why don't you get a half order?" And we were like, okay. He goes, this is what I recommend. Each get an entree, get a half order of the truffle risotto. We were like, sure. And so it comes out and like, I didn't know what it was. They come out and he's shaving the white truffle. They come out with the white gloves. It's in a glass case.
You
And
like
he's
open
shaving
it. Yeah.
And I'm like, and then you start eating it and you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing that I've ever eaten in my life. We get the bill. How much do you think a half order of truffle risotto was? This is 10 years ago.
In New York City?
In New York City, 10 years ago.
A half order of truffle. And how many does that feed?
Well,
I mean, it's just like shaved on top of the
entree would have been a full, like just a full order would have been an entree.
Okay.
So this is like appetizer size.
So probably like 10 years ago, appetizer size, probably $25-$30.
See, he has no idea.
No.
I don't.
But
truffle by weight is worth more than gold.
Oh my God.
by weight. But yes.
It was $90.
Wow.
So for the full entree, it was $180. And so like I felt blessed.
So you're eating gold.
You're eating gold.
And then you're shitting gold.
Yeah. So every year on our anniversary,
Had to go there.
we literally like, it's a joke. We literally save money every month. And like we have our like truffle dinner
Wow.
budget. And we go with another couple now. And this year was our 10th year.
So my
going.
wife's listening and probably wants to go to truffles now.
Oh.
What, is it New York is the only
No,
truffle?
but near probably, but
This restaurant, yes.
this restaurant,
Yeah.
yes.
And
You
it's
can get
incredible.
truffle anywhere,
Yeah.
but it has to be like the real like Italian white truffle. It's where the pigs have to go sniff it out. Like you can't.
I mean, or you could just take Michelle
in
to
parking.
Italy. You could take her to Italy.
They have truffles there too?
That's Italian truffle, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had it on everything.
I'm a
at
new
this point.
truffler, man. This is my first exposure to
makes-
truffle.
It makes
Going
everything better.
truffling.
Truffle.
It makes everything better, I'm sure.
Pizza, great.
Yes.
Chicken parm. Like you just get it on. Like now
There's
I'm at the
truffle
point.
parm?
Yeah, because they shave it. It's like a
okay.
mushroom, and they
Interesting.
shave it on it, and then it just melts.
Wow.
Really good.
Like people right now are rolling their eyes listening to
I know.
this.
I like seriously, I'm loving that we're teaching you, John, about
Truffles?
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's fucking incredible. So
All right. Well, I want to go truffling. Can you get it in Denver?
yeah, I'm sure you could get
I'm
it.
sure.
I'm sure you could get it around here somewhere.
Okay. So we've covered. So everything's good at home.
Great.
Got the 2 rails going. Then you're happy at ParkHub.
So yeah, we talk
things are
about
going- we talk
talk
about
the
a 2-rail
rails.
theory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So explain what
And
that is.
So 2 rails is you have your work life and you got your home life. And so you always, obviously the goal is to have both of those rails, going. And, but you can't have both rails fucked up at the same time.
You can't have
'cause
them
that's
derail
bad,
at the same
'cause
time.
that means you're just,
Yeah, that's
that means-
never good.
That means it's, not good. You're in a,
But usually
you're
one
in a-
derails hits the other one and
Yeah.
derails both of them.
Yeah.
but
Well,
you try to
no.
avoid that because that's catastrophic, right? So
I usually
Anyway,
I have
the-
no work life balance, right?
the
Like
happy
my
place is the 2 rails going smooth.
my personal life is non-existent. My professional life is really great, but like 2 of them running at the same time might be catastrophic to one or
Really?
the other. I think so.
How is your personal life bad? You're in out of the country every time you're in Italy or
That was.
I'm gonna call it.
while
We're gonna
ago.
have an episode.
Hawaii.
Where in the world is Danny?
Yeah,
But that's not-
Where in the world is
I
Danny?
say-
I'll get a text for some place in Mexico or where the hell is that?
It's funny because-
I'm in Greece. Oh, okay.
Chris Walters on your team, John, always texts me or he'll call me. He'll be like, "That's literally what he says first. He's like, "Where in the world is Danny?" But when I even do travel internationally, it's normally by myself. So that's not very much of a personal life. That's still I travel internationally and I still
Right.
work. Like I work on US like on a US time zone, and
Right.
then I'm just international when I do it. And so that's not normally with anybody. That's by myself. So that's work, not personal.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to run both of
Okay,
them.
Charlie. So What funny parking stories? You've got to have a couple being 20 plus years.
So what's the one that comes to top of mind?
It's not even close. So this was early. This is like first year. This is in Philly. This is Central. We got notice of a cancellation of an operation of a lot that we were managing. And like they called us at like 10 a.m. It was change of control, new owner, like closed on the lot. They were kicking us out.
Wow.
So they came over to the office and they were just complete assholes about it. And so they were like, we're taking over the lot at 3:00 today. And we were like,
no notice.
No.
Wow.
We're like, you sure? And they're like, we're taking over the lot at 3:00 today. And we were like, okay. They're like, get all your stuff. We'll meet you over there for the key transfer at 3:00. We're like, are you sure? He's like, yeah.
Yes.
So we managed the garage across the street. This was a surface lot, Center City, Philadelphia. They were building the Comcast tower right next to the empty lot. We all grabbed a bunch of beers and we went to the roof of our garage.
Oh, man.
And we got lawn chairs and we sat out and we watched this because we knew what was coming and they didn't. It was this little surface lot. We had cars stacked like rows 8 deep.
So
we had this
valet assist.
We had this very complicated system because there were 3 shifts. There was a 7 to 3 shift, a 7:30 to 3:30, and then an 8 to 4 shift. And so we had a keyboard and like, because you had to know which car would move because it was all done by shift.
Oh yeah.
Because we shuffled the cars around all morning to get them.
Oh, of course.
We took the keyboard because they said take everything that you wanted. So we threw all of the keys on the counter and they're like, oh, that's great.
Oh my God.
And so at 3:00 when the first shift got done, 50 guys showed up and they had no idea which car went to what key. So they were so they had like 10 people there hitting the alarm button. And then there's 10 cars going off with the alarm. They're trying to figure out. And so we're all sitting up across the street, howling at them, drinking beers, laughing, waving at them. Hey,
we got that board for you. That's great.
Good luck.
That's my favorite. Like, that's the first one.
That's funny because the no transition, like I've been through a couple of those. They're the worst. So I've been on the side where, no transition. The other operator's got to be out that day. So we had one garage and we're coming in, right? And so all excited, and these people were like frantic trying to get all their shit out. And so they finally move out. I won't say who they are, but it's funny as hell. So we looked down and they used the deposit. So it was like probably, I don't know, $3,800 deposit as the doorstop.
Oh my God.
And they're gone.
That's right.
So I'm like looking down going, oh my God, look at this.
Oh.
Pulled it out. It's like $3,800, but that's what they used as a doorstop.
I remember Joe telling me this story.
So they didn't, Joe was involved too.
He was like,
yeah. So of course I get on the phone with the owner and I'm like, hey man, you might want some cash that these guys left behind as a doorstop. So we delivered the cash down to the owner himself because it was a management agreement.
Right.
And so, but it was funny. And so we later saw these guys, like a couple, I don't know, like it's the running joke. Joe had a bunch of paper and made it green and was like, hey man, you left your doorstop like rubber bands.
But like I don't want to say back then, but back then, like that $4,000 was a lot of money for a parking operation.
It was
That's
crazy.
Insane.
Then they called like 2 or 3 days later and was like, hey, did you guys find some deposits? And we're like, yeah, we gave them to the owner. You can call them. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
That phone call?
You can take it up with the owner.
I like the fact that the owner sat on the info for a little bit and didn't call them.
That's right.
He sat there waiting for them to figure it out.
This owner is, he's
great.
that type of owner.
So in the spirit of the holidays, since we're coming up, we're in October, we're coming up on Halloween. What is the most scary, like, story that you have being in the parking industry? Like being from Philly,
Wow.
like I feel like there has to be. And John, I want to hear this from you too. But like,
That's
So just living
not
in
like-
Philly, you have a sketch story every night,
so
right?
sketch or scary?
both or
All right,
like
two quick ones. The scariest I've ever been, the most scared that I've ever been in parking, was when the Eagles went from. They had a rule one year: one car, one space.
ooh,
So no tailgating.
Ooh.
that is pretty terrifying
And
right off the bat.
it was my job to go into lot M. And Sherman's like, you got lot M. I'm like, great. And I had to walk around and tell people like, hey, no, you can't set up your grill and your lawn chairs in the extra spaces. You only get one space. It lasted for 15 minutes before I called Chris and I was like, I'm done. Because I felt like I was going to get stabbed. I mean, I literally ran into my uncle on the second one and he was like, yeah, go after yourself. Get out of here, kid. And then the third one I went to, the guys were like, no, we're not doing it. You can break it down. So the next week, I had 2 Philadelphia police officers on motorcycles behind me. And so I would go down the line and they would all look at me and they look at the cops and they would look at me and they look at the cops and the cops like, listen, I'm not getting off this bike until like it's serious. And I'm like, please don't take a swing because it's going to take them a minute to get off that bike.
Right.
So that I was on, I think we ended up on the cover of the Philadelphia Daily News. Like we were the worst people in town. It wasn't our fault. It's what the Eagles and the NFL said to do.
Right, exactly.
The most sketch was there was a guy that was stealing and we knew that he was stealing, but we just couldn't figure out how he was stealing. And the daytime manager was, there to like 7 to 3 and like, the story, like the money was always right. Like, but you knew that like there was something wrong.
Right.
And randomly one night we were out late drinking and at 1:30 in the morning, we're walking by the garage and here comes the garage manager with a bag of trash. So he was stealing. He was putting the money
In the trash.
So then the janitors would pick up and put into bigger trash and then put it in the dumpster. And he was coming back every night and going through the dumpster to find the trash bag from the garage.
Literally.
And he would,
It's wild.
and he would, that's how he got his money every day.
Have you, I feel
and
like.
he probably never took a vacation. And
No,
was always
listen,
there.
whoever never
Hey,
took a
buddy,
vacation was number one.
Yeah, come on, you're doing a good job, buddy. It's time for you, go on vacation.
Have you
I'm good.
have you ever seen the movie Taxi with
Yes, Danny DeVito
like
and
no, sorry, different Taxi. It's
Must
with,
be the new and improved taxi.
well,
'Cause
it
that's
was
the one
like-
that I went to,
it's with,
John.
It's with no, sorry. It's with
she doesn't even know who Danny DeVito is.
Of course I know
Yeah, I
who Danny
watched-
DeVito is.
I
He played
watched
in
Roadhouse
Twins.
on the way
And
out
he was
here.
the lawyer in the Rose.
I know who Danny
the
DeVito
Rose.
is.
Remember the Roses? The War of the Roses? Mm-hmm. You see that movie
No,
with Kathleen Turner and
no.
I haven't seen that.
that was
Anyway,
and Douglas.
the reason why I bring this up is because this sounds exactly like the heist that goes on in the movie Taxi. It's with Jimmy Fallon and Queen Latifah, which is a phenomenal comedy, by the way. You should
she
watch
was
it.
a taxi driver.
Yes,
I have seen
and
that.
he's the
Yes.
cop who's the worst driver in the world. He drives the what is it? Oh God, I can't think of the car right now. Anyways, but that's what they do. They take the money, they put in the trash, they throw it outside. They come and like so. That's what that reminds me of. I'm sure that he got that plot from somewhere.
So sketch, you got the guy taking cash out
Daewoo.
of the.
That's
so
the
how's
car.
he making? How's he
Daewoo.
making the reports right? What was he doing?
Is this where he was going over the
it
ticket
was all
counter
manual
like
back
the?
then.
Yeah,
But
Okay.
like we just like the numbers were not as good as they should have been.
Right. I remember at one garage I installed these cameras right over the register, and I'm like, when the register opens, you can't close it right away because it's analyzing the money that's coming in and out. I'm like, so there has to be a delay, right? And they're just looking at me going, I'm like, it's counting everything going in and everything going out.
They're like, sure.
It's like total bullshit.
Okay, so John, I want to know your story.
So let's see.
Scariest and then most sketch. Or you could just do one or the other. I prefer scariest.
I think the scariest was I don't know what I was doing, but it was like midnight on Lawrence and Arapahoe,
Yep.
where the big building is now, but it's near.
Yep.
It was all one surface lot where the Four Seasons is, and then the new Heinz building there. And so that was all one surface lot. So I was training or doing something with this guy, and a lot checker, and it was late. It was like midnight, and these guys were like smashing bottles on the parking lot. So, hero, I go running over there like, hey, what are you doing? Start yelling at him. Next thing I know, there's like all these guys that were in the group. It only appeared at the time when I was running over there that there was a couple. And so like they grabbed the handheld, smashed it. Next thing I know, I've got like guys behind me. They got me in a headlock, and like they're pulling my arms back, and there's two guys in front they're getting ready to smash my face in. And this guy that I was training came running up saying, that's a U.S. Marshal. Like, that's a U.S. Marshal, man.
Smart.
And it was
Wow,
like, they
yeah.
fucking dropped my arms and like they left. And I was like, that's when I realized, you know what? Like, it's midnight in downtown Denver. Like, who cares if they're breaking bottles? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Call the
be the
police.
hero. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't always call the police, John.
I know.
I
know.
Right when the digital pay stations came out, right? We put a few in Philly, and that's immediately when the bums would start they put the trash bags over them. So it was like near an event center. So they put the trash bags out of service, and they got their construction vest, and they'd be like, the machine's broken. It's $10.
Right.
And so we knew this was happening. I go to the Philly cops, and I'm like, hey guys, like there's a couple guys, bums, they're stealing all of our money from the lot. And they straight up laughed at us. Like, we went to the precinct. The guy's like, the cops like, yeah, we're not going to do anything about that. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And he's like, take him in the back alley and beat the crap out of them, and maybe they won't come back. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that.
That's old school.
But that was their response.
Oh, yeah.
To solve the problem.
Yeah, we used to have people come in, their cars would get broken into. Well, I want you to call the police. And it's like, I know if I call the police, I'm going to get shredded. They're going to show up and be like, because I've done it,
You
so
broken
many
into
times.
cars?
No, but called the police, and they're like, what?
Right.
Basically, they're like, what the fuck do you want us to do about it?
You know
I'm
what
like,
we need, John?
I don't know, some policing, but.
Investigation? I don't know.
So I was like, well, I have them on camera. They're like, great. What does that mean? I go, well, I got the guy's face. Back then, 20 years ago, that didn't mean shit. I mean, they don't know. That doesn't mean they're going to, know the guy.
I got another idea.
Okay.
Oh, love it.
Last time that I had the idea with this crew, this is what it turned into.
Yeah, here we are.
Larry has this quirky world of parking stories,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We need like the R-rated version of that. Like we need the stories that people submit of like the scary, the shady stuff that went. Larry, I love you, but you know what? Like that's maybe this volume, because you got two versions of it out. This volume 3 is like this, like the scary world of parking.
The scary, not the quirky, the scary world.
The scary world. Okay.
I think that should be
so
a question.
R-rated. I want to hear about this. Do you got R-rated stories in parking?
I mean, like, I think what we're kind of talking about.
Yeah, not like the bad side, but yeah, I do have a few.
All right.
When the valet, when
what about X-rated?
When the owner of the Rolls, when I got a call from the owners of the Rolls Royce that parked in my garage, and he called me on a Saturday and he said, I think you need to come down to the garage right now. I was like, great. Thought like maybe somebody hit it. I get to the garage, and there's 4 like handprints on his back window.
Oh
my God.
From the inside or the outside? Oh.
And so we went to the tape.
So that's X-rated.
So we went to the tape, and there's there's one of the valets and his girlfriend running up the ramp. Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, I'm pretty sure if we got some valet people in here, they would have the craziest stories about that.
So I think the sketch story that I have is always around the holidays. So
Yeah.
like after Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving, I think back in the day, all the retail stores, that's when they beef up their security for shoplifting. So like it seemed like car break-ins went through the roof. So we hired like an off-duty police officer. We had at this one garage that they were happening a lot. And so we hired an off-duty in plain clothes. And we had a security guard. That was the mind-boggling thing. We had like full-time security with like the diggy. Remember the diggy system? They'd have these like
the dots on the wall.
Dots
You had to get
all
the tour
over,
system.
and they
You
had to
hit
take
them.
their little thing and go boop, and you see that So never could figure out why we had all these break-ins. And then so the cop calls like on his first or second night and was like, "You're not going to believe this." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" "Well, your security guard from Twin Cities is the guy breaking into cars, and he's got like a felony warrant out for his." Look, I call the security company. I'm like, "You guys are canceled. Like, you're gone. You're done." Did you do a background check on the guy?
Not. Which actually reminds me of, I failed to mention this in the beginning when you asked me like the whole how I got into parking. So my first job out of college was with a private security company.
Okay.
And so I managed a bunch of buildings downtown, the front desk staff and all that. And, well, one of our clients was a pretty large local operator in the Philadelphia region. I'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Well, they were brilliant, right? Because they hired the security company that I worked for to do all of their tours, right? And the cashier. So we were a staffing company for them. They had the garage manager. So anytime there was a call out or somebody didn't show up, the garage managers picked up the phone and called me to yell at me. And then I had to go find somebody. And so I would go to the garage and they were sitting in their back office and their feet are up on the desk. They're not doing anything. I'm the one going through the tour. Remember the tour reports that were like, they were like printed out on pieces of paper?
I totally remember.
So I'm going through all that because if somebody broke into a car and we didn't do the tours, then we had to pay for whatever was stolen.
Right.
And he's just sitting back there with his feet up on the desk. So when I was looking, so then there was a little transition. I left that job, got into some property management stuff. And so when I was looking for a new job, I was like, you know what? I want to be the guy that's sitting in the back with his feet up, because that's what drew me to parking. I wanted to be the guy that was in the back office with his feet up, calling the security company to bring the cashier down.
So shift gears a little. So you founded Curb Track. So where do you see technology going in the next? I mean,
It's a loaded question, John.
That is a very loaded
technology
question.
is kind of accelerated since 2018. I mean, it's been accelerating, but I feel like it's really accelerated.
See,
Do you agree with that or disagree?
It's a loaded question. I think the advancements over the last 5 years, right? The last 5 years was a big jump, right?
Right.
I think the technology innovation is probably 10 to 12 years kind of old, right? The last 5 have been, that's the spike.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, for overwhelming majority of it, there are certain sectors in the business where innovation is still ramping up. Like, what's next? Like, I have this conversation all the time of like, at what point are we innovating just to innovate? And it's not is there just something that we're making just to make it up? Is there really efficiencies? Are we like overthinking things? Like, there's a lot of those conversations that I have about, do we really want to invest in this? Do we want to make an effort to do it? But there are some things that have jumped. Like, your stuff jumped through the roof. What is like the payment apps? What are they doing? Like, there's not a lot. The payment side is kind of hit a max.
Right.
So certain sectors are innovating. Other things, I'm not so sure really what's next.
So the buzzwords, it seemed like, I don't know, a year or two ago or whatever, maybe even before COVID, people were talking about automobiles going away and parking garages turning into these multimodal centers where, I mean, what happened to all that shit? Autonomous cars and smart cities.
Like, I mean, I think
I always talk about the smart city shit because,
You do.
like, I hate that term. There's no smart city as long as your technology, and there's still states
Cities
that
can't
are
buy fast enough to have anything smart that's all coordinated anyway.
right.
Well, this is like, and I truly think that like people aren't ready to make leaps, right? Like for
I'm still
like
kicking
solutions.
the tires, man.
Well, look, solutions that are like innovative now, like clients still want to take baby steps, right? You like Charley, like the ParkHubs of the world, the PRSs of the world can come and be like, hey, we have this innovative solution, but we're skipping all these steps. So you go from here, you go from one like sector to another.
Right.
And people don't like to make those big jumps, right? They need to take the baby steps in between to get from A to Z. And so I think that that's one of the hardest parts about everything is that people, I think we're not willing to take the leap because we want the in between to make sure that where we're going from to where you want us to go is actually going to work.
Agreed. Like the innovation in ParkHub has been incremental over the last couple of years, right? Like our core product and process hasn't changed.
Right.
It's a device that takes a credit card and scans a parking pass, right? You boil it, that's what it is. Now, from there, we do a lot of things differently that nobody else does, right? But it's incremental to our current product.
Do we have an API yet with those handhelds?
Who?
PRS and ParkHub?
Yes,
Not.
we do. We do. I say we do because I
don't-
use both of you guys.
You
but
would know.
No, because
Yeah.
we still can't enter in the license plate. Unless you know, listen, Dani and Drew may have figured it out, and I don't know. Like, it's like 100% that could happen.
So the ParkHub system can't
Not
enter
yet.
license. So how?
But it
where,
will.
Where is that at right now?
I don't, on the roadmap, John.
Who do I got to call, man? I can
I've
have
been
handhelds
fighting for
flying
this
out the
for a really
door.
long time, but we did say that the Just Park acquisition is going to bridge that gap.
Okay.
We are moving,
Yep.
like, it's no secret now. We have a new device coming out. So we've spent and we started the process 2 years ago of going out and looking at our next device. Now, we have not been shy about device issues that we've had over the last couple of years because it's not anything that we can control. We like the device you could buy to be out scanning and taking credit cards and parking. Like nobody made a specialized one for that, right?
Right.
We're in all elements, in all heat and cold and rain, and so how you had to package things together, it was really three individual pieces of hardware that we at ParkHub figured out a way to package together, right? So you have three different independent hardwares that need to connect to each other. They're going to fail from time to time.
Right.
Mainly heat and rain.
Yep.
So we went out and said, we're going to go and buy the best device that's out there. We think we did. We ordered it before other major players like major players like a Disney and a Chick-fil-A
Right.
before because we were like, we're going to buy so many of these right now. We'll commit to it. They're on the same platform, but we will actually have their new devices before they do.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And so
I want one of those.
We invested very heavily on it. They're like, we have videos now of like sitting when actually we don't, the manufacturer at CES this year had the device in a clear cube of water and it was running the marketing on the TV. So it was proving that it was water. It's basically waterproof. So it was sitting in water while it was running this. So we have videos proving it, dumping it in water in a bucket, pulling it out, swiping a credit card. So that's our innovation. But we're also moving to Android, which is another big one. So we're getting off of iOS. It's an Android device. That's a big code shift, a lot going on there. But that makes things like entering a license plate that much simpler.
That'll be game changer.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Yeah. So lots going on in on that front.
So you're here for PIPTA. How long are you here? Is it PIPTA or SWAPTA?
I don't think you're here for PIPTA.
Yeah, I'm not here for PIPTA.
Oh, no?
I'm just here.
He's here for us, John.
Okay. Here for you, John.
Okay. All right.
He came in.
What
came
is
in
Shout out to PIPTA. You
Yeah.
know?
Is
No,
it
no,
is,
yeah.
is PIPTA or SWAPTA?
No, it's
No,
PIPTA.
well,
SWAPTA's in Vegas.
Okay, I don't-
SWAPTA's in
Yeah.
Vegas
Okay.
next week, but PIPTA's here.
Okay.
I would go to.
Pacific-
I would be going to PIPTA if we didn't have our all teams meeting happening this week.
Yeah.
But
Do you know what PIPTA stands for?
I'm not a.
It's Pacific Parking.
It's like an
Intercoastal?
IPMI.
Is it like Intermountain? Pacific Intermountain
Intermountain
Parking and Transportation
Yeah.
Association.
So there we go, folks. If you're in
Charlie,
Denver,
that's why you get paid
go
the
to
big bucks.
PIPTA this year. Anyway.
Okay, so
So what do you got? What do you next? What's the next 24 months look like for you? As we wrap
24
up.
months. That's
24 months. Next 12 months are going to be, you'll see a lot of ParkHub in the news in the next 12 months.
Okay.
For sure.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right.
24 months, that's too far out.
Yeah. That's good. So we're going to have a lot of news too. Between now and December, there's a lot of news coming out.
That's
So we're not
60 days.
We're hiring a world marketing firm. We've just gone through the process, and so we don't want to be the ticket company anymore, right? As
You
referred.
shouldn't be.
So
Is that official?
It's a core. I mean, it's not a secret clear as you
okay.
as you
Well, I
see
didn't
what
know
we're
that,
doing.
yeah.
But I don't know what the name. I mean, PRS may not even make it through this process. Who knows? But I think it'll always be a service line, in my opinion. But it's definitely that brand or that logo is going to not be out in front. That's for sure. So that's exciting. So
I'm
it's
happy
always
that you're
our
excited
it's always
about
our
it,
core.
yeah.
It'll always be our core business, but it's not what we do anymore. I mean, it is, of course, but
your words.
people out there going, "Holy shit! Wait, they don't do that anymore."
It's not our core business. It is our core business.
No, it is our core business, but it's not going to be, the all we do encompassed of what all we do. So there's just too much other.
There's too many other things you can do. And
yeah.
like we're going through that same thing. The hard part of that is of growing and adding products is making sure people understand what you do.
Exactly.
And that's part of what I try to accomplish every day is that you hear ParkHub and you think of events and we got a lot more other things going
Exactly.
on. And so we have some changes that I think will correct that as well.
Yep.
Here
So
soon.
as we wrap up here, Charlie, what would you like to leave our listeners with? Like if you could give, let's say, 2 to 3 key pieces of advice about whether they are in the industry or looking to enter the industry. And I'm going to give Brian Wolf another shout out here because we always say that it requires grittiness to be in the parking industry in any capacity. What would your 2 to 3 key pieces of advice be?
Are you gritty?
Yes, the Flyers mascot.
Charlie's
Gritty.
from fucking Philly.
Yeah,
he is
I know,
gritty
he's
as
gritty.
shit.
I
Yeah.
can-
He's gritty.
I mean, wait, I'm sorry. Before you do this, can we just talk about how before you flew to venues now your car was
Car
stolen?
was stolen.
So wait, let me.
Oh my God.
So I get this. So,
I've had 2 cars stolen
So
in my lifetime.
I text Charlie. I'm like, hey, like safe travels. See, because Charlie had back surgery. We didn't see him at IPMI or MPA.
I know. I've been bummed.
And so I'm like, hey, like, see you at venues now. And he's like, not off to a great start. My car before I walked out, this was like
So I
6
had
a.m. my
early-
time.
early flight.
He was
Like-
like, my car literally just got stolen.
I'm putting
Oh
my
my God.
I'm putting my shoes on, and my wife is like, "Char, your car is just stolen." And I was like, "Shut up." She goes, "No, I just saw it drive away." I was like, "What?"
I'm not in it. So
In front of my house. And so
Yeah,
I went
yeah.
downstairs. I'm like, my car's gone. And so that day, I called the cops. They came, got the car back. They found it, got the car back, came home.
All in one piece?
All one piece. I mean, a little messed up, but
So
still
it was a
drivable.
teenager joy driving.
They
Probably.
went, And they took, and I didn't have that much. Thank God my golf clubs weren't in there. Like I didn't have that much stuff in there. The most expensive thing that was in there was the baby's car seat that they threw away because they probably didn't realize that if you took that to a pawn shop, probably could have gotten a couple $100. And there was nothing else in there. So they just left the car there. So GPS tracked it. They called the police. Philly police called me and they're like, you want to come get it? I'm like, yeah, I don't want you to take it. I don't want to deal with that. So we drove down, we got it, and came home, and I was like, all right, going to the airport. So I drove to the airport and flew to Phoenix.
This is classic because I have 2 stolen car stories. So one, I was in the military back from Colorado. I was stationed at Governor's Island in New York. Yep. Governor's Island is like a small town in the biggest city of the world, right? So you take a ferry out.
Isn't that where they bury all the dead people that they don't know as well?
They might have.
I think that's where the coroner like buries all the people that.
That's dark.
Yeah.
So
it's scary.
It used to,
you went down this road.
It used to be just a Coast Guard base at the time. So that probably explains a few things. There's probably dead bodies everywhere. That's why
That's why they don't allow anyone there anymore.
So my brother lived in Brooklyn at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I was going out to sea and I'm like, I'm gone for like a couple months. So he's like, can I borrow your truck occasionally to drive up to home? I'm like, sure. I mean, absolutely. I said, but you have to promise me one thing. I'll get you a pass. You park that fucking truck out on Governor's Island. So sure enough, I'm out at sea and I come back and fucking truck was stolen. My brother didn't park it. Well, the one time he didn't park it out on Governor's Island. So the only way that they knew that truck was mine was the Colorado plates that were lying. I have pictures. So that it was literally on blocks. The engine was gone. Quarter panels were gone. Like you couldn't even tell that it was my truck except the paperwork that was in the interior and the Colorado plates that were lying on the ground. So that was like, holy shit,
What was the second time?
The second time, I'm a single dad. It's a Saturn fucking station wagon.
I remember this.
They're the ugliest fucking cars on the planet. Stolen from my apartment.
Let's just picture you driving a Saturn station. Was it like maroon?
No, it was tan. It was worst color brown with shitty ass interior, like a Saturn station wagon.
But they left the car seat, right?
Yeah, they threw the car seat outside. Yeah. So it was next to where the car was parked. It was like, and they found the car later on and out on Tower Road or something near the airport. But like 2 cars in a fucking lifetime. It's a shitty feeling too.
Dude,
getting your car stolen. Yeah, you're just like
I don't know if they even like move the seat or the steering wheel. I think but like you get in it, you're like, it just doesn't feel right. Yeah. Like everything is wrong with it.
Oh yeah.
And trust me, there's cars that I've had that I've wanted to be stolen, and those fucking
this
things
is one like it. Like I got the car has enough miles on it where it's like, hey, if it ends up in the river, I won't be too mad.
Don't let your insurance company hear this, but I've never. So I feel like I gotta knock on wood, but I feel like I'm pretty lucky because both of my cars, my car previous to the one that I have now, like I have a really bad habit of leaving my doors unlocked. Like I'm usually carrying like a bunch of shit into my house. Where the first time that this happened, not the first time, let's be honest, it's like the 10th time that this happened. Like my older car, my locks didn't work the way that they were supposed to. So I remember walking out to my car multiple times. It was just like a homeless person just like kind of went through my car, maybe slept in it, not sure. That's a whole different thing. My current car, I leave unlocked all the time, which is not a good thing. Like not on purpose, but like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be like, oh my God, I got to go lock my car.
The key fobs are the worst thing ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the key, I leave and this time, thank God, or my wife probably would have divorced me because she yelled at me all the time. Like the keys were not in the car. The keys are locked because my neighbor's car was stolen a few weeks ago. Like, I don't live in a bad neighborhood, but they just.
It's happening everywhere. Now. Yeah.
The devices that they have to steal your car now are phenomenal.
And I've seen some videos of people stealing cars.
30 seconds.
Somebody's like pointing a gun at the front door waiting for somebody to come out. So like, don't ever go outside and like, just let them steal it. Like,
so
who
like,
cares?
luckily my car, so you can enter the car, but you cannot you can't put it in neutral or reverse or anything because my shifter actually goes down until the car is fully started.
Right, but you can do that with the keys in your pocket. My whole argument on why people are now leave it unlocked and the keys in the car is because the motion of turning the car off with the key, old school white, you take the key out and you put it in your pocket.
Instead, now it's like sitting in your.
I got too much ADD. Like I'm just throwing stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's, I'm on the phone, the baby's crying, I got shit to bring inside, and next thing you know, like the car is unlocked. This is why they just walk around and just test to see if they start the car.
You'll laugh at this. I've actually gone out and left the car running and thought that not only was the fob in it, but the fucking car's running. And somebody comes up to the other, your car's running. I'm like, oh God, what is going on with me today? Anyway, I've done that too. Anyway.
On that note, Charlie, please give us the 2 to 3 notes here.
All right. So number 1 is if you're young in the business, don't burn bridges.
I love that.
Like you never know. Like this is a small business. Like it's a small industry.
Okay.
Like don't.
It's a good one.
You never know when you're going to be a competitor, when you're not going to be a competitor.
Exactly.
Like and if I actually will shy away from doing business with people who I think have that mentality. Like if you're not willing to pick up the phone and have a conversation with me just because I work for one company and you work for another.
Yep.
Like I know what type of person you are at that point. Like,
right.
I'll never work with you again.
So don't burn bridges. What else we got?
I'm with you on that note, Charlie. I'm sorry. Just to like go off of that a little bit. Like
there is a point though, when you get to 30 years plus, then you're like, fuck it, I'm torching this bridge. I don't care anymore.
Well, no, but
I mean, if you're the CEO of your own company, maybe, but at the same time.
But at that point, you build a network where you burn the bridges secretly behind the scenes in one text message. You're like, so-and-so is dead to me. And all your boys are like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, that happens.
Right.
Look, I plan on burning no bridges in my entire career. If I have burned a bridge or two,
I honestly hate conflict. So, burning a bridge is not a good thing.
I would rather have the uncomfortable conversation rather than not have a conversation at all.
Right.
Like that is like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I may send that text message, but maybe 2 weeks later I'll be calling you and apologizing.
We're all heated in the moment. Yes.
Number 2 is, and this isn't just for the new people, like there are new companies and technologies that come in, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. Like we all want new things coming in.
Right.
But show a little respect for the guys and the girls that know what they're doing and who have been around the business, and like, don't think that, you've been in parking for 30 seconds that you're going to tell us anything we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that bothers me all the time.
So you're talking about new companies, new people coming in, and they're just like,
blah, 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 parking, blah. And I'm like, and that's with any industry. But like, what's weird with parking is that you can't really tell how long someone's been in the business.
Right.
Until you actually have a conversation with them. And then you can tell fairly quickly. Like I can tell if if you're a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, like, fairly quickly how long they've been.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
I agree too.
So don't come in and be cocky and think you know everything.
Well, I think that this goes back to our conversation about collaboration, right? Like whether you're a competitor or not, like collaboration in the industry, I think is very important. And sitting at a table and talking about doing some shop talks, and competitors sit at the table all the time, and sitting there and having respect for one another and sharing still ideas. Like at some point or another, nothing is a secret in this industry. It is going to get out whether we like it or not. So sitting there and talking and collaborating and sharing ideas is not going to be a detriment to
There's nothing. I mean,
right.
John, when's the last time that you were shocked by any headline that was on LinkedIn?
Right.
No.
0%.
It's been years before anything got out there. Like,
right. Unless someone is in this industry is building a fucking rocket ship, like nothing is groundbreaking.
Now personnel moves
personnel moves, sure, but there hasn't been.
That's different.
I've got a few shockers that are coming, so it's going to be nice.
You want to talk about it?
Nope.
Don't bring it up then, because we'll try to get it out of you.
Oh, yeah.
Couple weeks, you'll know.
Who are you going to work for?
You never know.
All of a sudden, in a couple of weeks, Dani Crain owns 46% of PRS.
Ooh, wow.
That's shocker.
That's okay.
Which is not true, by the way, FYI.
Oh, no. She said 2 or 3. I gave you 2.
You got 2? Okay.
I'm done.
You're done. All right. Well, Charlie, it's been good. We've been talking about this. Dani reminded me, you were part of you're a founding member.
I am.
Yeah, this was.
Okay, can I get the all things with Dani and John and like maybe a little Charlie down, like real small print, like down the bottom?
In ParkHub Orange.
Yeah, ParkHub Orange, stick out a little bit.
I remember it was at the View House, Littleton.
Yeah.
There was a lot of us there. Steve Resnick was there. There was a bunch of us. Yeah.
But Steve.
I was going to say, I'm shocked that you didn't buy the domain to our podcast show because
I could have, because I own a lot of them.
Yeah, you do. I'm always like, Charlie, what about this business? What do we think about this business? And he's like, bought the domain.
Yeah.
So
you need Steve to make you your own little like jingle.
We have one. John just kind of fucked it up earlier. Oh, that was good.
now you're on my speed.
Oh my god! What did I do? Holy shit!
What did you? Oh, it's only for your voice.
God. Holy shit! I can't talk anymore. I fucked this up. Oh my god!
Oh my god! This is not intentional.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Holy shit! That was fun. I still don't know this fucking board. I'll tell you.
Here it is. Everyone, thank you for joining.
Charlie, thank you.
Guys.
It was a great day.
Great. It was awesome.
All right.